penises everywhere. Boy oh boy, do we have a video today. Hi everyone and welcome back. So today I don't know why I said so, but today I'm going to react to Malleus Maleficarum, which I found actually in my grandfather's little library. So I just kind of saw it and I was like, what is that? Started reading it and I found it kind of hilarious, and quite frankly I cannot believe that I've not come across this before. And it was one of those weird things that, like, when you discover something you suddenly see it everywhere, and I am not kidding, every single book on witchcraft that I've read since seeing that has mentioned it, and I've read a lot already, so it's just one of those really weird things. But the more I kind of researched it, the more I didn't really find it quite as funny, because obviously, you know, it's a fucking terrible book and it advocates torture in order to extract confessions and all that absolutely shit stuff. So I'm just going to call it the Hammer of Witchcraft because it's much easier to say than Malleus Maleficarum. So the Hammer of Witchcraft was written by Heinrich Kramer. So it was first published in Germany in 1487, so yeah, 1400s. It kind of elevated witchcraft to kind of the level of heresy and said that witches and people that practice witchcraft should be punished in the same way as you would be punished if you were a heretic. So without further ado, I think we should just dive in, because this is the maddest shit I've ever read. Like, honestly, the guy who wrote it, Kramer, if that's how you say it, he actually got pretty much like discredited. He was a Catholic, and yeah, he pretty much got discredited, and one of the reasons, well, it basically wasn't in line with how Catholics actually viewed demonology. And I also read that a lot of it is because he was kind of so obsessed with sex, and like, I'm not kidding, every page I flick to, like, penises everywhere, penises getting taken off, penises being put in a nest and fed. I'll see if I can find that bit because it is hilarious. So I think for this video what I'm going to do is just dive in, open it to random pages and see what the heck we can find. I also have my wand here, cauldron and my crystal. There we go. So right, so I'll read a bit of the introduction. So it says, the Malleus Maleficarum, Hexenhammer or Hammer of the Witches, was first printed in 1486, only 6 years before Columbus rediscovered the American continent. It's perhaps the most important and terrible work on demonology ever written. It's a textbook of procedure, an official blueprint for the suppression of an underground movement against the Christian structure of medieval society. The leader of this movement was the devil. Its servants were witches. My bad. The Bible said, thou shalt not suffer a witch to live, as we all bloody know. Extermination must be careful but ruthless, and to this end the authors give the answer to every doubt likely to be advanced, together with the means to extract confession and effect punishment, which means torture. It expressed terror and authorised extermination. As a result, thousands were tortured to death, in prison or burned at the stake. So this one might come in useful as a bit of instruction. How, as it were, they deprive man of his virile member. We have already shown that they can take away the male organ, yeah, duh, not indeed by actually despoiling the human body of it, but by concealing it with some glamour. In the town of Ratisbon, a certain young man who had an intrigue with a girl lost his member, that is to say, some glamour was cast over it so that he could see or touch nothing but his smooth body. In his worry over this, he went to a tavern to drink wine, and after he had sat there for a while, he got into conversation with another woman who was there, and told her the cause of his sadness. Oh my god, imagine that! Imagine just like chilling in the pub and some random is there and you start chatting, and then he's like, when I try and touch myself, my dick's not there. Surely you would think that they were like the mental one. But anyway, let's see what she does. The woman was astute, oh thank God for that, and asked whether he suspected anyone. When he named such a one, she said, if persuasion is not enough, you must use some violence to induce her to restore you to your health. Oh God. So in the evening the young man prayed her to restore him to the health of his body. And when she maintained that she was innocent and knew nothing about it, he fell upon her, and winding a towel tightly round her neck, choking her, saying, unless you give me back my health, you shall die at my hands. Then she, being unable to cry out, and with her face already swelling and growing black, She said, "Let me go and I will heal you." The young man then relaxed the pressure of the towel, and the witch touched him with her hand between the thighs, saying, "Now you have what you desire." And the young man plainly felt, before he had verified it by looking or touching, that his member had been restored to him by the mere touch of the witch. He got horny because she touched him. Like, oh yeah, I can really feel my dick again now. How witches impede and prevent the power of procreation. Oh dear. But it must be noted that such obstruction is caused both intrinsically and extrinsically. Intrinsically, they cause it in two ways. First, when they directly prevent the erection of the member, which is accommodated to whatever. Secondly, when they prevent the flow of the vital essences or to the members in which resides the motive force, closing up the seminal ducts so that it does not reach the generative vessels, or so it cannot be ejaculated, or is fruitlessly spilled. Fruitlessly spilled? Oh my god. So they are blaming witches for men not being able to get hard, they are blaming witches for premature ejaculation, and they're blaming witches for the sperm not being able to go all the way. Fruitlessly spilled. So let's see what they do extrinsically. They cause it sometimes by means of images or by the eating of herbs, sometimes by other external means, such as cock's testicles. What the heck? What do they do with them? Do they make people eat them? But it must not be thought that it is by the virtue of these things that a man is made impotent, but by the occult power of devil's illusions that witches procure such impotence, namely, that they cause a man to be unable to copulate or a woman to conceive. I just feel like there's all these things that happen. It's just such a scapegoat, like obviously we all know that, but there's all these things that happen that we now know have such simple explanations. Men find it difficult to get hard sometimes, they ejaculate too soon sometimes, and that's embarrassing for men, so they're gonna be like, oh no, it must be that witch, oh she don't like me, so yeah, it was her fault, not my fault, I'm a man who's had this terrible thing done to him by this mean lady. Or the same thing for women. If they're infertile, it's easier to blame it on witches, and then it's not their fault. And like the other guy, bloody eunuch. So, I mean, that is obvious bollocks. I mean, it's just obvious bollocks. The story is probably completely made up. But if there's kind of any truth to it, I can just imagine a man saying that as a story because he was accused of trying to murder this woman. I feel like she wouldn't sleep with him, so he tried to kill her. And then he made up that story as an excuse. Well, it wasn't my fault. What am I supposed to do but strangle her? Bloody not. Ugh! Honestly, I thought there was going to be a laugh because it's so ridiculous, but it's like when you actually peel back the layers, it's just so obvious what actually happened and how they're trying to make it seem. Yeah, let's see if we can find any more. Apparently, in times long past, the incubus devils used to infest women against their will, but modern witches are tainted with this sort of diabolic filthiness, because the expert testimony of the witches themselves has made all these things credible, and that they do not now, as in times past, subject themselves unwillingly, but willingly embrace this most foul and miserable servitude. So that means that in the past, poor women basically forced into copulation with the devil, and then modern witches want to do it. So, a succubus devil draws the semen from a wicked man, and if he is that man's own particular devil and does not wish to make himself an incubus to a witch, and this last under some constellation that favours his purpose with that man or woman so born, shall be strong in the practice of witchcraft, becomes incubus to the witch. It's also ridiculous and confusing, and I just don't understand, and I feel like people put a lot of stock in dreams. Honestly, people have sex dreams, and I feel like that's really all it was. People can even orgasm in their sleep, men and women. So I think that one's explained really. And they would probably see that as a bad thing because, you know, like sex and things. If they're married, obviously it's, you know, cheating. But if they're not married, then they shouldn't be doing it. So they would probably feel really guilty about that and think that it was the devil's work. I don't know, that kind of makes sense to me. You know, masturbation, they may feel like that is the devil, like, so they're kind of sleeping with the devil in some way. I feel like that could be quite a bit of confusion because there obviously would have been a massive stigma against female masturbation particularly. So I don't know, I feel like a lot of that could possibly be explained by that. If you have any thoughts on any of this utter garbage that I'm reading, please do comment in the comments. This is just a wild ride, honestly. Right, so I can't actually find this quote in the book. Let me just move my camera so it's normal. So yeah, I can't find this quote in the book, but it is actually in Witches, Sluts, Feminists. So there's one little pearl of wisdom is that all witchcraft comes from carnal lust, which is in women insatiable. Can't really argue with that one. And then there's also a fantastical description of witches stealing penises and keeping them as pets in a bird's nest with other lonely disembodied penises that crawl amongst each other and feast on a diet of corn and oats. What? What is that? Like, yeah, I've got a load of like pet penises in a bird's nest. Poor little disembodied penises. Oh my god. And she also says, despite being disavowed by the Catholic Church in 1490, the Malleus Maleficarum marks a change in church attitudes. In the early medieval era, witches were viewed as mostly benign, seen as isolated misfits with weird ways that could aid or harm. Witches of the Renaissance, however, were held to be heretics in league with the devil, opposed to the rule of God on earth. They were seductive and immoral and received their powers as gifts from Satan. A lot of these women could have been witches. Witchcraft can be a tool for good, it can be a tool for bad, or anything in between. It's a thing that can't be proven, so it's just such an easy scapegoat and way of kind of taking revenge on someone. Like, obviously we know that happened a lot. It's just all the things that like make women that are attacked, and everything is just blamed. It is such a scapegoat and it is absolutely terrifying. Because soon as you start with the accusations, everyone can just pile on and be like, oh yeah, she did that, and it scares the shit out of me. And we live currently in the golden age of magic. Like, more people practice magic now than they ever did, and I just think it's fantastic. And I have actually been thinking of writing a novel, something to do with all that. I'm not going to say too much, but yeah, that is my plan. So I feel like Malleus Maleficarum will be used a lot for inspiration for my novel, which I'm probably going to start next year once I've got married and handed in my MA and I don't, when I have a spare second. So that is all for this weird book. Please do let me know what you think of this absolute shit show in the comments. Please subscribe and like the video, follow me on Instagram.